Could this SUV possibly be the coolest SUV to enter the Trinidad and Tobago automotive market in a long time? Well, let's find out. So you're going into GWM and you ask for an SUV. The first SUV Sarah brought out, the Julian. You love the Julian, but you say you want something bigger. It must look more imposing. So she takes the Julian back and she brings out the H6. You love the H6, but you heard some bush mechanic somewhere saying that hybrids are not good. So you don't want no hybrid, but you want the big vehicle. And you also want a vehicle that performs. You want some performance in your life, because your life lacking performance. So she takes back the H6 and she brings this, the H6 GT. Now, aside from a few bits here and there, like the headlights and the name being the same H6, the H6 GT might as well have been a completely different vehicle. They could have labeled this the H7, the Haval H7. This is what happens when they build the concept car for real. You know, when you look at vehicles, the concept car always looks way cooler than the actual car you get. Well, somebody at GWM said, you know what? Let me build it. Let me build the concept car. And this is what you get. The Haval H6 GT. The price starts at $379,950 for the luxury and $449,950 for the ultra, as seen in the video. Now, after my H6 review, many people commented on how nice the H6's grille is, and I agree. That large imposing grille, it really has a commanding presence. But the beautiful thing about how these vehicles are coming these days, where the entire front is a bumper, you can take that entire thing off and change the front of it. So the front is a completely different front on the H6 GT. Firstly, the fog lights sit a bit higher, and you also have a more 3D designed front end. You have this layered approach. You have a smaller inlet on top versus the large grille. So small inlet on top, a larger one in the middle, and then you have this small section at the bottom here as well. All of this just helps the front look more aggressive. When you see it in person, especially from the side, it looks like it's pushing outward, like it already wants to be on the move while it's stationary. You also have your front camera there, because this does have a 360 camera system, so that front camera has to be there. On the lower half of the bumper, you have this carbon fiber piece that runs the entire width of it. You all have to see this vehicle in person. It does have an aggressive look, especially when you watch it from the side like this. It just looks like an aggressive vehicle. You see this driving without even knowing that it was a more sports-oriented Haval H6. You would know that there was a more sports-oriented Haval H6. You also have power folding mirrors with turn signal repeaters. Now the mirrors are blacked out to go with our whole blacked out theme. You also have blacked out 19-inch rims with the tire size 235, 55, 19s to be exact on blacked out rims. Now these rims aren't anything too special, but they get the job done. Moving further back, just below the both rear doors, you have this shark fin aero piece that sticks out. Now it does open with the rear door, so you don't have to worry about accidentally breaking it coming in and out of the vehicle. But if you want to lean up on your vehicle, be mindful that that piece is there. Don't lean up and put your foot there, because it might break off. Moving all the way to the back, this is where you get a chance to realize that they actually redid the back. Compared to the regular H6, this is a different rear end. For comparison, the original H6 has a more conventional squared off rear end for an SUV versus the coupe design of the GT. So it's not just a front bumper they added on. This entire back piece from the rear quarter glass, that has been redone. I'm not sure if it's a completely new panel or they were able to modify the existing one, but it's definitely not the same rear end. Just like the front had a more 3D aggressive look, they did the exact same thing with the rear end, giving it a more aggressive stance when you look at it from the rear. You have two exhaust tips, not real exhaust tips. You'll get to that later on in the video. You have two reflectors on both sides of the bumper. Then you have the H6 GT four-wheel drive badging. And then if you look at it from this side, you can see the all LED rear tail lights. You have all LEDs front and rear. Above that, you have this spoiler lip, which is cool, but they gave it two spoilers for whatever reason. You have a spoiler here and a wing on top. But you have this spoiler lip right here. And then below that, you have this carbon fiber trim piece. I'm not sure if it's real carbon fiber. It could be plastic, we don't know, but it looks like carbon fiber, so I'm going to call it a carbon fiber trim piece. And above all of that, you have a second rear spoiler, which is more like a wing, even though we tend to call all these things spoilers, but there is a difference. But you have two. You have one at the tip of the tailgate, and then you have the wing on top there. And obviously, at this price point, you do have an automatic liftgate, so you have the option of pressing the button on the inside to open it and close. You can press the button on the key fob to open and close, or you can swipe your foot below to open it. And then to close it, you just push the button on the tailgate itself and it closes. Now in terms of trunk space, this is where you start seeing a bit of compromise, where you are putting style over function instead of function over styling, because with the rear seats folded up, you only have 392 liters, and with the rear seats folded down, you have 1,390 liters, which is less than the regular H6, and that's because it has a coupe style. So because of that slanting roofline at the rear, you are bound to lose some space in terms of what you can pack going up to the roof versus the regular H6. But if that isn't a deal breaker for you, yeah, it's still a good vehicle because look at it, it's not really that small. So don't think because I said it's smaller than the regular H6 means you have no room to put anything. You can fit a lot of stuff at the rear here. As a matter of fact, it has a spare tire. Something that many people have been talking about for the longest while. Oh no, spare tire, I don't want it. Well, it has a spare tire. It's not a matching rim like what is found on the outside, but it's a spare tire. This is where the regular H6 would have its hybrid components, but this is not a hybrid, so there are no hybrid components at the rear here. You have a spare tire. In terms of safety features, you have everything. You have dual front airbags, front side airbags, center airbag, curtain airbags, pre-tensioners with load limiters for the front and rear seat belts. You have the seatbelt reminder, ISOFIX, child safety lock, electric stability control, traction control, roll movement intervention, brake assist, hill descent control, hill start assist control, brake override system, tire pressure management system, front and rear parking sensors, the 360 camera, auto park assist, reverse assist, adaptive cruise control with stop go, intelligent cornering, intelligent dodge, emergency lane keep, rear crossing traffic alert, rear crossing traffic braking, forward collision warning, lane departure warning, lane keeper assist, lane center keeping, automatic emergency braking for pedestrian, bikes and crossroads, traffic sign recognition, lane change assist, rear collision warning, door open warning, traffic jam assist, intelligent cruise assistance, ACC integrated TSR, driver drowsiness detection, and most likely a kitchen sink because like they were throwing everything in here. Stepping into the cabin, the first thing you realize is that everything has been blacked out. The only specks of color you really see is the red of the GT stitching on the seats and the red of the seatbelt clips. That's about it. Everything else blacked out. So if you get claustrophobic or you don't like everything looking black on the interior, look out the window. On the seats, you have a mixture of leather and suede. So you can see on top there where the GT badging is. That is suede, and then the bottom half is leather. The exact same thing on the door as well. You have a mixture of suede in the center, hard plastic down low, and a type of soft touch material up top, which I will show closer when you go to the front seats. But this is what it looks like. Now, I must always point out, it's always going to be a compromise between long-term durability and soft touch materials. This suede will never be as durable long-term as a solid piece of hard plastic. But if you are spending $414,000 on a vehicle, you want soft touch materials. You want premium feeling materials. And this suede does the job. You pass your hand on it and it just feels premium. And who knows, it may last a very long time because I doubt anybody will be buying this vehicle to work taxi. So if it's just you and your family, one child in the back, it may very well last a very, very long time. Down low, you have two rear AC vents, no AC vent controls, just the vents, and two USB outlets. None of them are USB Type-C. I'm not sure when more manufacturers will get to the Type-C train, but it's functional. It's just not USB Type-C, it's the regular type. You get rear reading lights or whatever you want the lights for, left and right for the rear passengers, and yes, they are LEDs. You know I love my LEDs in vehicles, so yes, they are LEDs. Moving to the front of the H6 GT, starting with the front door panel. To the top of it, you have this leather-like material that is soft to the touch. You can poke it in and it goes in. Below that, you have the carbon fiber trim piece, and then you have suede below that, and where your elbow would rest when you are just driving or as a passenger, you have suede there as well. Below that, you have hard plastic. Most people don't go fiddling about below there anyway, so you have hard plastic below there. You also have dual speakers, one big one here and one small one up by the door handle, so the sound is actually up high. It's not low down like in some vehicles that almost by a foot. It's up high. Taking a look on the inside, you have this type of floating center console thing that you are seeing more and more manufacturers doing now, like it's all the trend these days. You have this big space below and the center console seems to be floating on top of it, which if you think about it, it makes sense. Why have a solid piece of plastic as a center console when you can have an empty space below there and have even more storage space? Here you have your glove box and you have one USB outlet right here, and on the driver's side you have another USB outlet and a power outlet. Both front seats are powered. The passenger gets a 4-way powered adjustable seat while the driver gets an 8-way powered adjustable seat. Both seats are heated and ventilated, and if you look at it up close, you can see the suede on top there by the GT badging, but you can also see on the edge by the bolstering it also carries over that carbon fiber theme. Now, it's not really carbon fiber on the seats, but they have that carbon fiber theme throughout the vehicle, even on the seats. You also do have the carbon fiber trim piece that is running along the center console there, and also at other points within the H6 GT. They went all in on that carbon fiber look. Even the seats look like carbon fiber where it's actually leather. Here you have your gear shifter. Simple gear shifter. It's a turn dial style. Whenever you turn, it's going to show you here what is in. Right now it's in drive/manual. You're going to get neutral. You go all the way to the left, you get reverse, and if you push down in the center, it goes back into park. On your center console, where your arms would normally be, you have the suede soft touch materials there as well. You have two cup holders further front. You have your wireless charging pad. You have some physical buttons that are for important functions like your hazard lights and your parking cameras, but everything else is controlled via the infotainment screen. Your entire climate control, everything is controlled up there, which I will show in a while. On the driver's door, you have your typical controls: door lock, unlock, your power folding mirrors, your mirror adjustment, but you know, I must point this out: one touch up down on all glasses. It just makes life a bit easier. Now, you do get both driver and passenger side vanity mirrors with illumination, but they are not LEDs. Now, I've heard the saying that LEDs aren't placed here because these warm lights complement skin tone. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if it's true, that may be a reason why more manufacturers don't put LEDs by the vanity mirrors. Here, you have your typical lighting controls. They're either on or off, or they come on when the door is open or closed. You have your sunshades holder here, and then you have these switches that controls your panoramic sunroof. Now, it extends from the front seats all the way back to just about the rear seats, but it's always a challenge to capture these roofs in one single shot. They are so large, so that's why I find it's kind of off-center and crooked. I'm trying my best to capture the whole thing in one frame. But I love very much that when it's closed, it's closed. There's no light seepage from the outside. Some panoramic sunroofs and just normal sunroofs, the top is so thin that you still get some light seepage coming in even when it's closed. This one is closed, nothing gets in. In terms of your instrument cluster, you have a large 10.25-inch color display. Now, it's not flickering in the real world. It's only flickering on camera due to the frame rate I'm currently recording at. But in the real world, it's not going to be flickering. Behind the steering wheel, you have paddle shifters, because after all, this is supposed to be the performance version to the regular H6. So obviously, you would have paddle shifters. They work as you would expect. You hit up, you hit down, you go up in gear, you come down in gear. And they have a metal feel to them. I'm not sure if it's just very dense, hard plastic, but to the touch, it has a metal feel. So the attention to detail is there. Behind all of that, you do have a heads-up display. It's going to be difficult to see on camera again, but I'm going to try my best to zoom in on it and show you all. This is what it looks like. Right now, it's in the standard mode. You can also change it to snow, which is showing blue because blue will stand out more against a white background if you're driving on snow. But we're in Trinidad. We don't have snow down here, so you can leave it here. It shows things like your speed, your heading. The vehicle does recognize speed signs. So where you're seeing that little icon below there would be a normal speed sign. If you're going 100 in a 80 zone or 120 in a 100 zone, you are able to set over speed warnings just in case you accidentally went over the speed limit. It would beep, but it's also always there as a constant reminder, so you are seeing the 100 speed limit sign there. So in case you missed it, it will keep track of it, and it will keep that. Let's say you're in a 100 zone, it will keep that 100 there until it sees the next speed limit, and then will update to whatever the new speed limit is. For your infotainment, you have a large 12.3 color display, and this is also where you control your climate controls. Most manufacturers now are putting it on the display, which I absolutely hate, because it's always some small touch points, and it's next to impossible to hit the exact touch point the first time you try while driving, but it saves money on manufacturing costs, so most manufacturers are just lumping it into here. You do have different modes. You have normal, you have sport. If you go again, you're going to get eco. Then you have snow, and if you go one more to the right, you're going to reach race. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's the difference between sport and race? Well, I'm going to get into that later on, but for now, these are your base settings here. Now, if you're going to SUV, because after all, it has a four-wheel drive badge on the outside, the first thing it loads into is off-road. So you have this setting here, and then if you go again, you're going to get sand. So you have two settings inside. So it's a full-fledged functional SUV. You can drive it in sand, snow, mud, off-roading. I mean, really and truly, you won't be doing much off-roading with this vehicle, but if need be and you find yourself in some rough terrain, it can handle it. In here, you have all your other safety settings and vehicle settings and stuff, which I wouldn't go into because I already listed them at the start of the video. Plus, if I attempted it, it will take about 50 minutes. So just know all your settings are in here. You do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You also have the ability to stream music from your phone or your flash drive using the USB input points that I showed earlier on. Now, this menu here was a bit confusing to me, and I'm still to figure it out because it's saying battery power 57%, and this is under vehicle status. Now, it's definitely not the fuel because the fuel was not 57%, and it's not a hybrid vehicle, so it can't be the hybrid battery they're talking about here. And I'm doubtful it's the actual 12-volt battery for the vehicle, because if you have a 12-volt battery that's at 57%, that battery is no longer useful. So I'm not sure if this particular menu is just a carryover from the hybrid version, because the H6 is a hybrid, the H6 GT is not. So I'm assuming that maybe this menu here is a carryover and it's really and truly meaningless. If one of you know what that menu is, leave it in the comments. I would love to know what that 57% signifies. For your 360 camera system, you have all the modes. And when I say all the modes, I mean all the modes. You have this one where you can look down at the vehicle from the top, and from the rear you have your blue guideline that is showing you only where the rear of the vehicle is going to go. Then you have this other mode that you can look back at it and you are seeing the lines on the left hand side, which shows you where the wheels are going to go, front and rear. Plus, if you look to the right, you're going to see the right also turns, so you have a view of exactly what's going on from the top and from the rear. You can also change to a different mode that shows you the fixed touch points, so you can touch front, back, front right corner, back left corner. But if you don't want to do that, and you just want to swipe with your hand, you can also just take your finger and swipe the entire display on the right hand side and it turns. But if you want a more precise touch-based system, you can just touch the cameras here, and if you go to predetermined points, you can also look through the vehicle. Now you can't see the ground, but it removes the vehicle from frame, so you get a better reference as to where wheels are. And yes, you can see the wheels turning there. And it's the attention to detail. For example, when you are looking straight back at the vehicle and you mash the brake, you actually see the brake lights turn on there. If you turn the hazards on, you will see the hazards flashing there. You turn your left or your right indicator, you will see it there. It's the exact same thing for the front. You turn your fogs or your headlights or your indicator hazards on, you're going to see all of them light up in front there as well. They didn't have to do this. This isn't needed. It's not necessary. But the attention to detail is there. It shows that it's not just a static image, even though it should just be a static image, but there's some life to it on screen. But there's more. Let's say you don't want to see lines. You want to see your actual wheels. You want to know where your wheels are going precisely. Well, when you are taking a turn like this, you can actually see the front wheels. Top down is on the left, and look, the wheels here on the right. Look, you can actually see the wheels going over the bump in real time. So you can precisely see where the wheels are going. And there's even more, because most vehicles might show this, but because there's only two cameras under the mirror, you don't get to see the rear. But look, you are seeing the rear here. I'm not sure how wide angle these cameras are to show front and rear, but you can see the rear. And now we are back to the front. You can see the front turning. And then when you enter reverse, no delay. It goes from the front to the back. Same cameras. I'm not sure how to do this. Same cameras. But you are seeing the rear wheels as well. So you can precisely see, not to rub down the curb. You can precisely see where the wheels are. I love this. More vehicles need to have this. If I had to have a complaint, it would be that you can't just turn it on. Like how some vehicles, you can just turn on the cameras whenever you feel like with a button. Here you can, but only under a certain speed. You're going to see it click off here, and that's because I went over the 15 kilometers per hour. So I have to slow down, press it again for it to turn back on. You already went through the trouble to give us this extensive camera array. Give me the option to drive like this. What if I want to drive on the highway like this? Just see the surroundings on the screen. What if? Give me that option. Don't limit me to under 15 kilometers an hour. You come here, give me something, and then you take it back. Plus, if you think about it, this is supposed to be the race version of the regular H6. Look at this wheel camera here. This would be so cool to look at as a passenger, or maybe you have it recorded while you're on a track. Just seeing the wheels turn. People put cameras and GoPros on race cars just to get this angle. You all have it built in. Make this permanent and make it recordable. But now, let's take the H6 GT out on the road and see why they call it the H6 GT. Now we know that Haval calls it the GT. They also gave it some aggressive styling, and they also said it's supposed to be the performance version to the regular hybrid H6. But you know, there are some manufacturers out there that just slap on a GT badge, give it some red stitching, a slightly different flare kit, and charge you $100,000 more for the vehicle. I'm not calling any names, you all know who I'm talking about. So how does this GT badge translate into everyday driving dynamics? Well, the first thing you have to look at, what is the Haval H6 powered by? What is the drivetrain? Well, the H6 GT is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged engine pushing out 201 horsepower and 236 foot-pounds of torque. It sends power to all four wheels using a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. But how does it compare to other SUVs within that price point? Well, if you look at the fully loaded Hyundai Tucson or the fully loaded Kia Sportage, both of them have turbocharged 1.6-liter engines. This is faster than them, and it has more torque and it has more horsepower. The only SUV within that price point that has the same amount of horsepower would be the RAV4, because that also has a 2-liter engine. But because this is turbocharged, this has more Newton meters of torque off the line. So when you're looking at just pure performance, you're already seeing that within that price point of $414,000, this already has the performance on paper. But let's see how it translates into the real world. Well, let's start with the driving immersion. Like, how does it sound when you are driving? Does it give you that race car feel? Does it give you that race car sound? Well, if you look, you will see 2 exhaust tips. Now, these 2 exhaust tips are fake. Like most vehicles today, fake exhaust tips. The actual exhaust lay behind that and they are tilted down. But as you are seeing here, you are seeing 2 on this side. There are 4 in total. 2 on the left, 2 on the right. The question you may be asking yourself right now, why are there 4? And why are they at different lengths? Well, the answer is something that most likely you have never seen from a showroom vehicle in Trinidad and Tobago. When the H6 GT is in Eco or Standard, this is what the instrument cluster looks like. It's just there. But when you put it in the Sport or Race, it changes to this. But it doesn't just change this, it changes the exhaust note that you hear. So depending on if you want to make noise or you don't want to make noise, you have the option. You have the option to make noise and to not make no noise when you see the licensing officials and them on the road in a roadblock. Dope stuff. But it also goes beyond that because they change the mapping of the throttle as well. For example, when in eco mode, you can mash down a bit more and the RPM just feels lazy building. You don't get that instant response. But once you enter sport mode, the engine becomes a lot more free revving. A slight tap on the accelerator pedal and the RPM goes up. When you hear about vehicles putting a smile on your face, this is what they mean. You hear the song, you have the full immersion, you feel like a race car driver even though you are not a race car driver. And at the slightest touch of the accelerator pedal, you can be here and gone before anybody realizes you were even attempting to leave the scene. But it's a bit bittersweet because while you are there enjoying a bit of spirited driving and enjoying the rumbling song you are hearing behind you and in loving the fact that you bought the GT over the hybrid H6, you are then bombarded with all the warning chimes and beeps you could think about, just interrupting the mood. Or you crossed the line without indicating, but you did though. Or you crossed into a different lane and there's a vehicle 2 miles behind you, watch out for a collision. Or you are too close to the vehicle in front even though you are like 8 car lengths behind the vehicle in front of you and it's like, just shut up, let me listen to the vehicle, please, just shut up.
Oh, that loud.
Yeah, it is.
Why is it?
That was the across the lane.
But I turn off that. The lane assist, the lane keep, I turn all of that things off.
And it's only after then, when you are bombarded with 5 different warning chimes, one after the next, you remember you were living in 2024. Everything is PC, everything is soft. How dare you enjoy the vehicle you just bought without hearing beep, 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 beep.
But that was very loud, boy.
Yeah, it was real loud. And if you come and if you load the sound system down,
So that's why I'm not going to tell it. Next time we can just load it down and see what it does.
it does not. Whether the sound system is on mute, low, high, mid volume, it's loud. Another cool thing that you can find on the H6 GT that you can't find on most other SUVs within this price point is launch control. Launch control essentially gives the vehicle the best chance to accelerate from 0 to whatever speed and can be found mainly on performance or sport oriented vehicles. It's here as well. Unfortunately, on this day, rain decided to fall and they want to tempt fate. So this really isn't an accurate representation of its 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 acceleration, but it's just me pulling off to give a representation of what it would look like under normal circumstances. Now, to say that they went all in to give you a sporty drive is an understatement. Take, for example, the transmissions, a dual clutch, 7-speed. It's a violent transmission when it is in sport mode. You can actually feel the entire vehicle jerk when the next gear engages and it pushes forward even more. Look at it.
It's a bias.
I had to take the GoPro off the head mount I usually use and use the chest mount this time just to give a low down look at how violent those gear shifts are. When the next gear engages, you can feel the pickup and the pull right after that. The two things I wish they added was the rev matching. It doesn't have rev matching. You gear down and it just gears down. And the second thing, a slight pop or crackle when you lift off your accelerator pedal and it's gearing down. For example, you lift off the accelerator pedal and it's gearing down and all you hear is... Hearing a bit of crackling and popping at this point would have been the icing on what is otherwise a good cake. But I'm sure aftermarket you can retune and force it to crackle and pop. Now, in terms of responsiveness, I would say from a dead stop, 0 to 30 kilometers per hour, that's where you really experience turbo lag. There is some turbo lag within that region there. But once you get up and moving and you're on the highway, to accelerate from any speed, you really don't face any significant turbo lag. Now, because it's 4-wheel drive, you get the sensation of just movement. What do I mean by that? When you have a front-wheel drive vehicle, the front wheels are the drive wheels. So you get the sensation of the vehicle being pulled along. When it's rear-wheel drive, you get the sensation of the vehicle being pushed along. But because you have all-time all-wheel drive here, even though they call it 4-wheel drive, you get the feeling of just movement. You don't know if the vehicle is being pushed or pulled, you just know you're being moved. It's a really hard sensation to explain unless you have driven a front wheel, rear wheel and all-wheel drive vehicle. Now, it's interesting to note, right now I'm in eco mode, which of all the modes is the laziest of them all. And I'm going over the maritime flyover, slight incline, but in everyday driving, the vehicle doesn't feel sluggish at all, even in eco mode, even while going up a slight incline there. If you didn't know that this vehicle had a sport mode, you wouldn't think anything of this mode. You don't really miss anything in everyday driving. But now that you know it have a sport mode and you know how the sport mode sounds, I think most people will just keep it in sport mode. But just keep in mind that eco mode isn't really a slouch either. In terms of rear visibility, it's not bad, but it's also not that great. I won't say it's industry leading or class leading. That coupe style roofline they have going on the back there kind of takes away some of the rear visibility. This is all you really see. Now it's functional. As you can see here, you can literally see what's behind you, but small. It just have a small slit. This is really all you see compared to a full-size rear glass. It's not only about the power and speed and the turbo, launch control, how the exhaust sounds. There are persons who will buy this vehicle and don't give a damn in the world about its performance. They just like how it looks, but they want a safe vehicle. So let's go over some of the safety features and see how they perform. It's pulling you back into lane good.
Yeah, so let me put on the lane center too. So this way will keep you in the center of the lane.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing the gauge change
Right?
there.
So you saw it, right?
So the lane keep does exactly what it is. It keeps the lane. So if it realizes you are drifting over the white line, it will nudge you back into lane. While the lane centering does almost the same thing but differently. Instead of lane keep letting you drift and then pull you back, lane centering keeps you in the center of the lane as best as possible. Another cool safety feature is what Haval is calling the intelligence dodge. I've seen it in other vehicles under different names, but essentially what it does, sometimes when overtaking a large vehicle like a sealant container or other large trucks, the vehicle is able to determine the safe distance to overtake such vehicle, and it will slightly take control. It won't override you, but it will show up on the instrument cluster that is a large vehicle up ahead, and it will prepare to keep you in lane in case it finds you are drifting too much towards that vehicle. For example, I'm about to overtake a truck and you can see a curved line show up on the instrument cluster. It's going to stay there until I overtake the truck. The steering wheel is also slightly pulling to the left to keep me at the optimal distance away from that vehicle. Once I pass the truck, the line will go back to how it normally shows the road. And getting back to the lane keeper assist, it will still keep you in lane even when you are going around a slight bend like you are seeing here. It's turning the steering wheel. I saw this in the GWM Aura when I test drove it, and I'm seeing it here as well. That loud annoying beeping along with the warning on the instrument cluster saying hold steering wheel is just to make sure that you are still there, because without that I think people will try to let the vehicle drive autonomously because all the underpinnings are there. It already has adaptive cruise control, which will slow the vehicle down and bring it to a stop depending on the traffic conditions up ahead, and start back moving when the vehicles in front start moving again. Plus it can steer itself depending on if you have good road markings or not. So just so people don't get carried away and just let go of the steering wheel and go in the back seat, they have these loud annoying beeping chimes to remind you hold the steering wheel. There are other safety features which I'm not really able to test. For example, cross traffic alert. If you're backing out of a spot, let's say you're at a mall or a grocery store somewhere and you're backing out and somebody's walking behind the vehicle in your blind spot, it will see them and warn you or come to a stop so you don't bump into them. This could be a pedestrian, it could be somebody riding a bike, it could be a dog. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But all in all, I will give the Haval H6 GT a solid pass. There are some things I wish they had done differently. For example, this is supposed to be the performance version. They did everything else except touch the rotors and the calipers. They could have at least given us painted calipers and drilled and slotted rotors. It would have added just that much more to the vehicle. But as it stands right here, it looks like an aggressive vehicle with basic brakes. The brakes work, but it just looks basic. Another thing is that they went through all the trouble to give us this nice interior, but no mood lighting. Vehicles at a lesser price point have the mood lighting. Just give us a LED strip on the door and on the dash or something just to add a bit of flair. Now, I don't care much for mood lighting, but I know people are into it. And they're going to look at this and be like, so where the mood lighting? After all, you all threw almost everything else. You might as well give us the mood lighting and done. But I can still say that it's a sexy vehicle, beautiful vehicle, very aggressive, fun to drive, and it really does put a smile on your face. Don't take my word for it though. If you are in the market for a vehicle at that price point, go and give it a test drive, see if you like it. Who knows, you may or you may not. Me personally, I love it just based on the styling alone. The performance is just an added bonus, but I love how it looks. And on top of that, it comes with a 6-year warranty and a 5-year service package. So you should be worry-free for at least the next 6 years.